It's 4:17 p.m. on Sunday, the 1st of August, 2010. I'm Mark Strassman, reporter with Etopia News. We're about to speak with Bruno Kaufmann, who is the co-president of the 2010 Global Forum on Modern Direct Democracy. He's in San Francisco. I'm in Los Angeles. Welcome, Bruno, to Etopia News.
Thank you. Hello, Mark.
Yes, this is the second show we've done from the conference, but the first one we've done with you. So tell us just a little bit about your own position as head of the Initiative and Referendum Institute of Europe.
Yes, we are a think tank founded 10 years ago, especially to support and to inform and to educate about modern direct democracy in Europe. But very early, we also got involved in many global projects in Asia, in Latin America, in the US. So since 2 years ago, we have this process called the Global Forum process, which is basically a dialogue, deliberation all over the world on the issues linked to the initiative and referendum process.
And what part does this conference now in San Francisco play in that overall process?
Yes, this is the third such a global forum which takes place. 2 years ago, we had the first one in Aarau, Switzerland. Last year, we had a second one in Seoul, Korea, and now we are here in the US. And of course, it makes sense to be here because San Francisco, California, and US are places where direct democracy plays a huge role. And obviously, we are discussing these first 2 days many of the issues which are of importance here in the United States.
Okay, and over the years that you've been having these conferences, what are the trends that you've been seeing? How have things been evolving? What's the direction that direct democracy has been moving in over the last few years?
You mean globally?
Yes.
Yeah, globally, you can clearly see that in the last 20 years, there has been an enormous development to introduce forms of direct democracy in most countries of the world. In fact, we have done research on that and seen that in 9 out of 10 national constitutions, there are at least some forms which can be called direct democracy, which means popular vote processes on substantive issues. But when you look into the practice, then even if the practice has also grown dramatically, you can see that in most countries, these instruments doesn't work. So the whole question is, how can the instruments become really workable, user-friendly, citizen-friendly, and even in places like the US or in Switzerland, where you have direct democracy for more than a century, there are many, many issues to be improved, many, many questions and challenges ahead linked to, of course, the international development, technology, and also issues linked to the real practice, the role of money and the media.
Okay. Now, the main purpose of these interviews is to get a report on what's happening there at the conference. So tell us what the main things that happened today there.
Yes, today we have discussed especially the role of money, firstly, in the initiative and referendum process, because it's often a critical point when we are discussing that here, especially in California, that by money, the money rules the process. And you can say, of course, and this has been underlined by several panelists, that money plays an important role. But at the same time, of course, the process is still also a process of the people, for the people, because in the very end, it's about voting and about deciding. So what we have seen also by academic research is that basically with a lot of money, you can maybe bring an issue to the ballot. You can also maybe veto a proposal by being on the no side, but it's very hard to buy a vote. And maybe one of the examples was the recently voted Proposition 16, where there was $50 million on one side, the yes side, and just 80,000 on the no side, and the no side won in any way.
So what were some of the panels that met today and some of the keynotes?
Yeah, Ned Crosby was a keynote speaker in the morning. He developed his ideas about, you can say, improving the process by having additionally tools of citizen juries, citizen assemblies to discuss the very issue of direct proposals. And it's also one of the key points. How can direct democracy really be a deliberative democracy? And by a very fact that you have an initiative process, of course, this can be created in theory, but in practice, very often it goes just down to very expensive TV ads and maybe very little of deliberation. So he came up with the idea of improving the process by adding a form of a citizen a jury, which is looking into each of the proposals and also make recommendations. So that was the morning keynote. We had then at lunch Tracy Weston from the Center for Governmental Studies in Los Angeles, a keynote on the challenge of technology. And obviously, the huge challenge is now, if the whole initiative and referendum process goes into the digital time, that means that you can maybe in the future gather signatures on the internet, you can vote on the internet, and these are good things by principle, but this needs new check and balances, and he has been very much into that he wants to develop new forms of check and balances on the process when it becomes a more digital process.
Okay, talk about the audience. Is the audience, when I talked to Joe yesterday, he said the audience was very involved, as you could imagine, with a direct democracy crowd. What kind of questions were being raised by the audience today, and what kind of things do they care about?
Many people coming up with questions are, of course, people who are practitioners, who are doing initiatives, who are being involved in participative issues. And they have a lot of questions, again, you can say, about how can the process be improved, which forms of check and balances of supportive infrastructure could be built up to make the process more, you can say, democratic as it should be. So we had different people coming up with also ideas and proposals to be discussed. Of course, the panels develop a little bit in a Q&A situation, that those who come up with questions, they basically have very short time and there is little time to discuss. But what is an interesting factor here, I don't know if Joe have underlined that yesterday, we have this keypad polling after each of the panels. So there are instant feedbacks by the people here, and you can see that most people really who are here, they are really concerned how the process works. They're not so much concerned about if there is a process and not. And this has, of course, maybe to do that in California, where we are, the process has a history and nobody is really intending to abolish it.
Okay, and talk a little bit about the question of realizing the changes. How do people imagine that the improvements that they're discussing are going to be made?
Yes,
how are they talking about doing that?
I mean, if we would have just the crowd of today or the people who are really registrants here at the forum, I think it should be possible to really have a reform, because this is basically the constituency for reform, which is maybe in the bigger world lacking more or less, because in the bigger world, many people are not so concerned about the process as such. They are maybe concerned when they lose or when they win or when they feel something is injustice. But the people here are really the reformers, you can say, from the right, from the left. That's a very fascinating thing to see, that independently where we are politically, people are concerned about that the process can be developed even in the next century.
Okay, and what are the next events going to be? What's going to happen tonight and tomorrow?
Yes, now we are basically moving from, you can say, the local and state level discussion on direct democracy to, in a few minutes, Senator Mike Gravel will present his ideas about the national initiative, the old discussion if there should be such a process on the national level in the United States. Then tonight we have a reception by the Swiss consulate here, and this is not by accident, because today is the Swiss National Day, and Switzerland has been an important, you can say, idea in all these debates about direct democracy, because Switzerland is the place where these instruments on all levels have been developed mostly, and many ideas came, in fact, over from Switzerland to the Western United States 120 years ago, and they inspired. So today will be a little bit of a reflection about that. Then tomorrow morning, we start with the real global forum. That means we will have presentations from around the world, from Latin America, from Asia, from Europe, from Africa, how initiative and the referendum process works there.
Okay, good. I look forward to talking to either you or Joe or both of you tomorrow and see what happens on the global front. And thank you very much and good luck.
Thank you very much, Mark. Bye bye.
Bye.